Is it the year of the underdog in college football? We always talk about 2007 is our season we look back at, if you're old enough to remember, or if you're young enough, you've probably seen the documentary on YouTube from whatever guy made that video a few years ago, just how chaotic and great that season was. And it always holds a special place, and I don't think it'll ever truly be topped. But I think this year is a close second. And Heather Dinich had a quote on some random ESPN YouTube video, not even one of their main shows or anything, that I think perfectly sums this up, because I've been feeling a way about this, but I didn't necessarily know how to describe it, and she did it best. In quote, Heather says, "This is the best year of college football that I have ever covered, and it's not even close, because it's historic." And to be able to document this history, and not only, but we are talking about Army, Navy, Indiana, Iowa State, how fun is this? The pool is deeper than it has ever been before, end quote. And that's what it was. It's historic. Because I was trying to put my finger on it, and it truly is historic. Think about all the different things. So I have gone and gathered all of these stats that I've been able to find that you might find interesting about why this season, I'm not saying Indiana's going to win the national title or even something crazy. Look, even Oregon in terms of college football history, you could maybe consider an underdog. That might be a stretch, but a team that's never won a national title is number one right now. But you got to look at this. So let's keep going. I'm going to go into these stats for you, and we'll just see how crazy this year is currently for us. Pitt is 6-0 for the first time since 1982 when Dan Marino was the quarterback. If you look at the top teams in the Big 12 right now, it's BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Cincinnati, Colorado, all fighting for that conference title. BYU was picked to finish 13th in the conference. Iowa State 6th. Kansas State 2nd. Obviously, we know they're up there. Texas State 9th. Or Texas Tech 9th. Cincinnati 14th. Colorado 11th. There's only one team in the top 5 right now in the preseason poll for the Big 12 that's currently competing, and the two teams undefeated were picked 13th and 6th. So now let's go to Indiana. You're 7-0 for the first time since 1967. 6 consecutive 40-point games, which is tied for a second all-time in Big Ten history during the AP poll era. Ohio State had 7 in 2022. The only other two with 6 were both Ohio State teams. And you just had your largest Big Ten win since 1945 for Indiana, where you also just scored the most points you've ever scored against Nebraska. And Indiana's currently won all their games by double digits for the first time since 1896. And we just keep going. Army and Navy, obviously, are both ranked for the first time since 1960, and they're both a combined 13-0 for the first time since 1926. Illinois is 3-1 versus ranked opponents, which is their most wins versus ranked opponents since 2007. They beat Michigan for the first time since 2009. Their first ranked matchup against Michigan since 1983, where they won. And then we also have Florida State being as bad as they are. One of their worst seasons ever outside of 1973, where they were 0-11. ULM, Louisiana Monroe, the dumpster fire of college football, is 5-1 for the first time since 1987 when they won the DAA National Championship, which is now the FCS. Vanderbilt right now is currently ahead of Alabama in the SEC standings. Vanderbilt is ranked for the first time since 2013, but that was at the end of the year. For the first time in season, Vanderbilt is ranked since 2008. That was a total of 5,852 days, 14 years. And with the SEC, the last time the SEC had 0 teams unbeaten when overall records heading into November was 2007. That's when LSU won the national title with 2 losses. 2007 was the last time we had something like this for the SEC. This is just crazy. You also have Boise State with Ashton Jeanty actually getting respect for the Heisman. They're actually respecting great athletes not in the media's favorite conferences. Indiana, Illinois' combined record, just gets crazy. Colorado, their second 5-2 start since 2005, however you feel about them. That's crazy. Michigan is in danger of becoming the first defending national champion since, funny enough, Michigan State in 1967 to finish with a losing record, and they also rank 100 or below in almost every offensive category. Duke just beat Florida State for the first time ever. They had lost 22 straight games. They're 6-1 for the first time since 2015 and only the 4th time in program history. FSU is off to its worst start since 1975, a year before Bobby Bowden was the head coach. Vanderbilt, 4-0 at home for the first time since 1982. They just tied their best start through 7 games in the last 40 years. Going back to Iowa State, they're 4-0 in conference play for the first time in school history. 7-0, their best start since 1938. Oregon just had their first shutout in 12 years. Army holds the nation's longest winning streak at 11 games. We are 8 weeks into the year, and Army and Indiana are both undefeated, and neither of them have trailed yet. UNLV has a wide receiver that has more blocked punts himself than any other team has in the FBS, which is crazy. The state of Louisiana is 22-5 overall. LSU is 6-1, Tulane's 5-2, Louisiana 6-1, and UNLM's 5-1. This is crazy. Army's quarterback Bryson Daly has 5 rushing touchdowns in a game. He tied Army's school record, which you go back through all their history, and you're surprised even through the 30s and early before that they never had someone do that. And he has 19 rushing touchdowns this season, a program record. That's crazy. Game day is going to Indiana for the first true time on a Saturday. Yes, they went on a Thursday back in the day, but this is their first true game day. Absolutely incredible. Colorado State, by the way, they just beat Air Force for the first time in 7 years, but get this, they beat them at the Academy for the first time since 2002. SMU has won 12 straight conference games. They broke the school record of consecutive conference games wins, which was 11 from 1981 to 1982, which we know what SMU was during that day. Miami this season have scored 50 points for the 4th time. They just broke a tie for the most such games in a season in program history. And all of that, and we're only through week 8. There's still so much history to be written in the rest of this season, guys. And I'm not saying this season compares with 2007, but the number 1 team hasn't been ranked longer than like 3 weeks. Oregon gets to play Illinois at home this week, and I think Oregon, the last time they were ranked number 1, immediately lost the next week to Stanford. And I'm just saying, this season can get even crazier, especially with a 12-team playoff now. Take it all in, guys, because this might be one of the best college football years of your entire life. Soak all of it in and enjoy it, because it's awesome.